This is Samantha Mickleburgh, and on April 13, 2024, she organized her ex-fiancé's 60th birthday so he wouldn't be lonely. But by the following morning, she was dead, and the man who killed her had already been on his phone, posting about his heartbreak on Facebook. What makes this case even more shocking and deeply unsettling is what a hotel manager witnessed with his own eyes. A moment so chilling, it will make you ask, how can someone kill a person they once claimed to love so deeply? Samantha hailed from Axminster, a quiet market town in Devon, England. After losing their father, she raised her two children almost entirely on her own, becoming both mother and father to them. And by all accounts, she was extraordinary at it. Her family called her their champagne girl. She lit up every room she walked into. She had style, she had warmth, she had a laugh that you remembered. She was organized, ambitious, and deeply loyal to the people she loved. Her daughter Jessica and her son Alexander later said something that has stayed with a lot of people who followed this case. They said, "Our mother had been both parents to us since the loss of our father, and she was doing such an amazing job at it. No finer example of a mum could there be." She was also someone who always kept her word. If she made you a promise, she followed through. No matter what. That quality, that loyalty, is what put her in that hotel room on the night she died. In the summer of 2022, Samantha matched with a man named James Cartwright on a dating app. They were both from Axminster, both roughly the same age, and at first, things looked promising. Cartwright presented himself as a man of standing. He had been educated at Harrow, one of England's most prestigious private schools, and he made sure people knew it. He described himself as a property professional. He had briefly served as a Conservative district councillor, though that chapter had ended badly in 2016 when he resigned after publicly calling his critics thick and illiterate in an online argument with a fellow councillor. But Samantha didn't know that version of him yet. The relationship moved fast. By March 2023, they were living together. By September 2023, he had proposed and she had said yes. A whirlwind by any measure. But then came the cracks. Cartwright discovered messages on Samantha's phone from a former partner. The discovery shook him, and he confronted her. At trial, he claimed that the trust between them had been broken. But what's unsettling is that, despite saying this, they continued to live together for months afterward, right up until February 2024. According to his own testimony, their intimacy hadn't completely stopped. It wasn't until the beginning of March 2024 that Samantha made a decisive choice. She ended the relationship. She told him, in no uncertain terms, that he needed to leave her home. Reluctantly, he moved out. He even started living with someone else. On the surface, it seemed the chapter had closed, but some bonds aren't so easily broken. Despite moving on, he couldn't let Samantha go. He lingered in her life in ways that made her uneasy. What followed, she confided to her friends, was more than just uncomfortable. It was frightening. Cartwright started showing up at her house uninvited. He mowed her lawn without being asked, as if that entitled him to her attention. He would sit outside in his car for long stretches of time, watching. He bombarded her with messages and phone calls. He wouldn't accept that it was over. Her friend said she was scared of how obsessive he had become. And yet, she also felt guilty. She didn't want to be cruel. She wasn't a person who liked leaving others in pain, even when they were the source of her own. Then came the birthday. Months earlier, before the breakup, Samantha had made a promise. She had agreed to spend his 60th birthday with him, a weekend away at a hotel, something they had planned while things were still intact between them. By April 2024, everything had changed. She had moved on emotionally. She was looking forward, not back. But she had given her word, and Samantha Mickleburgh honored her promises. She told friends this would be the very last time she saw him. One final act of kindness before she closed that chapter for good. She even knew exactly how she would set the boundaries for the evening. When friends asked what she would do if Cartwright tried to push for intimacy, she was clear. She would leave. She booked the room herself. 2 beds, separate. She had thought it through. On the evening of April 13, 2024, Cartwright's 60th birthday, Samantha arrived at the Penny Hill Park Hotel in Bagshot, Surrey. It's a 5-star resort set in 123 acres of Surrey countryside. The kind of place where people mark big occasions. That night they sat down to dinner at the Latimer, the hotel's Michelin-starred restaurant. A 6-course tasting menu, the full occasion. But as the evening went on, something was wrong. Hotel staff began noticing that Samantha didn't look right. She appeared increasingly drowsy as the meal progressed. At certain points, her eyes were closed. She looked like she was falling asleep at the table. Not tipsy, but something deeper than that. Before the meal was finished, the pair got up and left the restaurant early. The hotel, concerned at the abrupt departure, called their room several times. When Cartwright eventually answered, he gave no explanation. He simply said they would not be coming back to the restaurant. TV cameras in the hotel corridors captured them, making their way back to the room that evening. Staff who saw Samantha at this point noted that Cartwright was physically supporting her, helping her stand and walk. She would not have been able to consent to anything. That corridor footage was the last recorded image of Samantha Mickleburgh alive. At around 8:30 in the morning on April 14th, Cartwright placed a call to 999. He told the dispatcher he had woken to find Samantha dead beside him in bed. When police and paramedics arrived at the hotel, he painted a story of a tragic accident. He claimed that Samantha had fallen out of bed during the night, struck her nose, and that he had helped her back into bed. According to him, no serious first aid had been required. He described their previous evening as peaceful and intimate, asserting that they had shared consensual intercourse before falling asleep in each other's arms. But from the moment the paramedics stepped into the room, they sensed something was wrong. The scene did not match his story. Samantha had been dead for a considerable period of time. This was not someone who had passed away in the last few hours. Signs suggested she had been deceased long enough that immediate intervention would not have changed the outcome. What followed was a moment that James Pettit, the hotel's guest relations manager, would later describe in court with disbelief and horror. As Samantha's body was carefully placed into a bag and moved toward the ambulance, Cartwright followed along. At the vehicle, he appeared to locate where her head rested, bent down, kissed his fingers, and pressed them against the bag. "Bye-bye," he said. Then, as the ambulance slowly drove away, Cartwright stood in the hotel driveway, waving until the vehicle had completely disappeared from view. The gesture was eerily calm, almost ritualistic, and left those who witnessed it shaken. He did not stop there. Once the ambulance had gone, he returned to the hotel room. He went directly to Samantha's handbag, removed her car key, and took a piece of diamond jewelry. He left with these items as if they were ordinary belongings, almost casually, despite the gravity of what had just occurred. But here is something most people don't know about this case. When Surrey police and the paramedics first arrived that morning, the death was not immediately treated as suspicious. The initial assessment suggested a possible natural cause. She was 54. She had felt unwell during dinner. The room appeared undisturbed. It was tragic. But was it a crime? Samantha's stepfather, Stephen Strain, is a consultant surgeon. When he heard about his stepdaughter's injuries and the circumstances of her death, his medical instincts told him something was deeply wrong. He didn't wait. He picked up the phone and called the coroner directly. He told the coroner that the post-mortem could not wait the standard 10 days. Vital forensic evidence would be lost if it wasn't done urgently. He made the case. He pushed, and the coroner listened. The post-mortem was moved forward, and what it found changed everything. The examination revealed injuries that no fall from a bed could explain. Samantha had a fractured skull. She had fractures to the bones in her neck, the kind of injuries consistent with manual strangulation. There was significant trauma to her head. Surrey police opened a murder investigation. On April 19, 2024, 5 days after Samantha's death, James Cartwright was arrested. He was charged with murder, non-consensual intercourse, and controlling and coercive behavior. He denied everything. From the moment Cartwright called 999, prosecutors argued he had been building a story, and one by one, every part of that story crumbled. When police interviewed him after his arrest, he told them that Samantha had asked him to move back in that very evening. He claimed they had become re-engaged. He said they were planning to get married in a few months. But Samantha had told multiple friends, before she ever arrived at that hotel, that this was her goodbye, her final act of kindness, her last time. She had even specifically booked a room with 2 separate beds, so there would be no ambiguity about the night. Then investigators found something even more damning. Between the time Samantha died and the time Cartwright called 999, a window of several hours, he had placed an engagement ring on her left hand. He staged it. He put a ring on a dead woman's finger to make it look like they had reconciled, to make his story of a loving reunion seem real. But that's not all. Detectives examined his phone. They found that in the days before the hotel stay, Cartwright had been messaging women on a dating app. In one message, he described the upcoming birthday dinner with Samantha as having the feel of a final farewell. In another message to a different woman, he called it the last goodbye. He already knew. He told someone else it was ending. He just had a very different ending in mind than Samantha did. And when the Crown Prosecution Service looked at the CCTV footage from the restaurant, Samantha struggling to stand as Cartwright walked her out, the picture of a woman who consented to sex that night became impossible to believe. Prosecutor Moses Karoma summed it up plainly. As soon as he called 999, Cartwright started to weave his web of lies. The trial took place at Guildford Crown Court in July 2025. It lasted 3.5 weeks. Cartwright did not stay silent. He took the stand and maintained his innocence throughout. His defense? That Samantha had simply fallen out of bed, that the injuries were caused by a fall, that everything that happened between them that night was consensual and loving. He also attempted to blacken her name in front of the jury, raising unfounded allegations about her personal life, claiming she owed him money. Her family firmly rejected all of it. The jury heard from hotel staff, from forensic experts, from friends and family who described a woman who had very clearly and very deliberately ended this relationship months before she ever walked into that hotel. They heard how the room had been staged, how the ring had been placed, how the timeline of his story didn't match the forensic evidence, how he had waved an ambulance goodbye while her body was still inside it. They deliberated for just one afternoon. On July 31st, 2025, the verdict came back unanimous. Guilty of murder. Samantha's family had sat through weeks of testimony, hearing the man responsible describe their mother, their sister, their daughter as a liar. When the verdicts were read, they held each other and wept. Cartwright did not react at all. As he was led from the dock, he thanked the judge. On August 8, 2025, 6 members of Samantha's family stood up at Guildford Crown Court and addressed James Cartwright directly. Her sister Tracy Carter looked at him and said, "Our family welcomed you into our homes and hearts, and you violated that trust and kindness. I will never understand why you thought you had the right to do the horrific things that you did to Sam. I wish she had never met you." She added, "Did you feel proud of yourself when you lied to my father, telling him that Sam had died in her sleep, knowing full well the horror that you had put her through?" Her daughter Jessica said she was haunted by what he had done. Her son Alexander said the only comfort he could find was knowing that Cartwright would never be able to hurt another woman again. Mr. Justice Murray, the sentencing judge, told the court, "Samantha's family suffer a grief that those who have not experienced it cannot imagine. It lies beyond words to fully describe." James Cartwright was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 28 years before he would even be considered for parole. He is 61 years old. He will be nearly 90 before that door even opens. Her family's final statement asked for something simple. They asked for privacy. They said, Samantha wouldn't want to be known as a victim. She would want to be known for her passion for life, her class and beautiful style, her honesty, integrity, strength, and dedication to all who knew her. She was their champagne girl, the one who lit up every room, the mother who was both parents, the woman who kept every promise she ever made. She deserved to make it home. Now I want to hear from you. Cartwright was acquitted of the controlling and coercive behavior charge, even though the evidence of his obsessive behavior after the breakup was very much part of this story. Do you think that verdict was right? And do you think his minimum sentence of 28 years is enough? Let us know in the comments below. Just to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives. Thank you once again for watching.